Hello everyone, so I'm going to narrate to you the first chapter of Mafia indebted. I wrote this chapter on the 13th of January 2017 on Radish Fiction. So you can check it out, the story is there, and I'm sure that you will really enjoy it. So I'm just going to give you a full narration of the chapter and then we'll see. Someone is panting really heavily. Leaning against the dirty wall, he tried to catch his breath, his hand firmly gripping the side of his stomach where the bullet had shot through. He was bleeding profusely for a long time now, since when he couldn't recall. Groaning, he looked around, his senses hyper alert. But the continuous blood loss wasn't helping. It was slowly beginning to dampen his senses. The grip of his other hand had tightened on the handle of the gun he held and aimed it at nothing in particular. All that could be heard was deafening silence of the night and the light trickle of the rain against the metal pins and the concrete ground. His head began to feel light and his legs began to shake from carrying him for too long. Giving up, he leaned against the wall and slid down to the ground. He had dealt with far worse, but this was the first time he didn't have any backup. So, this is how I end, he thought scornfully. I never thought that I would meet my maker this way. And for what? What do I have to show for it? Nothing. His thoughts held all the emotions that he never allowed himself to ever feel. But since he was so close to dying, he didn't feel the need to stop the unwanted thoughts from invading his mind. Resting his head back, he gazed at the dark sky. So, you are calling me now. I know I'll go straight to hell. I guess the irony lies in the fact that you chose to make my death painful and meaningless. Maybe I deserve it. He scoffed and chuckled darkly to himself. Of course, it was easy for him to give up. He had nothing to live for. All he did till now was survive, and the only reason he continued to live his life the way that he wanted was because it held pleasure and not happiness. He was alien to that feeling. He knew now that fighting against it was useless. Now his enemies would find him and end him, and he'd be damned before he ever let that happen. A slow, cryptic smile stretched on his lips. The blood loss was sure to finish the job at any moment now. As his vision blurred, his grip on the gun was lost. Lying down, he relaxed, waiting for the angel of death to approach him. His hearing lost, his mind hazy, he tried to close his eyes and his mind went numb. All of a sudden, a strange feeling crept up. In his heart, he was actually afraid of death. Although he wanted to give up, but a nagging voice at the back of his head told him that he should fight it and live. What for? I've got nothing to live for. What's my life's purpose anyway? He argued with himself, but he didn't want to fight. Fear was slowly creeping in his heart for the fear of the unknown realm, death. But it was inevitable. Maybe if I had done something good in my life, then I could bargain it for a second chance, but alas, good was always against the very core of my being. I can't even beg you to be merciful towards me when I myself have been merciless all my life. His pacing heart was slowly giving up as his blood continued to flow out of his body. The pain was getting unbearable. Just take me already. Why do you have to make me suffer? Don't be a sadist, he mentally screamed. Of course, he knew all too well what it was like to bestow death in sadism. He had done it all this time that he could barely even remember. It was classic poetic justice, as they say, him dying in pain and by the very means in which he prided himself on. All of a sudden, his body began to feel numb. His hands and feet felt cold. His breathing slowed to an abnormal rate. In one last effort, his body fought, and his mouth opened to draw in as much air as it could, but it was useless. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approach him. Although his senses were down, he tried to grip the gun but failed. I guess this is it. I'm ready. But the footsteps weren't as heavy as he had thought. They were soft and came running towards his direction. Oh no! The sound of a soft, angelic voice graced his ears. Upon opening his eyes, he fought through the blur and came across the most beautiful pair of hazel eyes he had ever seen. The dim light from a faraway lamppost didn't help him to make out much of her features, but her eyes held him captive. Is this an angel? If I get to be taken by her, then I don't mind dying anymore. He internally smiled as he saw the beautiful angel and closed his eyes. Hey, can you hear me? She asked in a hurry, her fingers making way to his neck, to his carotid. Your pulse is faint, but it's still there, she told. The feel of her soft fingers was like silk to his rough skin. He felt tingles where she touched, and he liked her touch. It was angelic, just like her. Is this how hell feels like? Or have I actually landed in heaven with this angel? Mentally scoffing at himself, he knew better. Instead, he tried to focus on the angel. Assalamu alaikum, I need an ambulance right away, she spoke on what he guessed to be a phone as she continued to tell the address. Please make it here quickly. This man has slipped into shock from bleeding profusely, she spoke. Her voice held so much worry and anxiety. Is it for me? Is this angel worried for me? Just that thought made his slowly beating heart feel like it was about to pace. But why isn't she taking me already? Wasn't she here to take my soul? If I even have one, that is. Please, you have to stay conscious. Help us on the way, she said. I'm going to live? So this angel isn't here to take me? She's saving me? Is she my guardian angel? He wanted to laugh at the absurd things he was thinking about, but his mind was barely functioning as he processed everything that she was saying and tried to do. He never believed in angels or demons for that matter. Maybe the blood loss was messing with his head, but he didn't care. He felt a warm feeling creep in his heart when he saw the care and delicacy the pretty angel displayed towards him. He never knew that something like this could ever exist in this world. Kindness. And this angel showed him so much of it. She was trying to save him. When he had given up on his life, he felt a strong feeling of something he had never felt before. In his life towards his angels, he felt gratitude. He wanted to touch this angel and feel her more. If he had known that death would make him meet with an angel like her, he would have approached death much sooner. Maybe I actually did some good in my life for me to be saved by this angel. You're going to be all right. Just hang on, please, he heard her say. Her tone sounded so assuring. It was almost music to his ears. He wanted to hear more of her voice. He wanted to have this angel. He wanted her all to himself. The sound of cloth tearing to pieces pierced through the air. He felt a light tug on his abdomen. He felt her hands around his waist, and just as she applied pressure, a small gasp escaped her mouth. He opened his eyes to see her look at the gun clenched in his hand. Those hazel orbs shone with fear as they looked at him, but nonetheless, he saw her finishing up, tying a piece of cloth on his wounds. He didn't approve of the fear that took place in those eyes. He felt a sudden urge to get up and take her in his arms. Soon enough, the sound of an ambulance sirens began to draw near where they were. A look of relief flashed in those hazel orbs. You're going to be all right, just hang in there, she said, and quickly stood to her feet and got away from him. No, don't go, pretty angel. He wanted to stop her, but the strain on his body was too much, and slowly he felt the darkness take him in. No, I want to be with you, my angel. He tried to fight against the darkness, but it was no use. He drifted off. So, I can't believe I actually wrote this. I wrote this story, I guess, almost 4 years ago, and now that I read it myself, I felt so embarrassed. I was like, did I really write this? I mean, as I was reading it myself, the thoughts that came in my mind were, this is ridiculous. Am I really the one who wrote this story? I mean, come on. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm reading this story for the first time, and I haven't really read this story at all. And now that I've read it, I feel really embarrassed that did I really write this? Yeah, I did. I don't know. All I remember is that I wanted this scene to be extremely dramatic, and that's how I wrote it. I wanted it to be dramatic, and I wrote it to be as dramatic as I've just narrated it to you. So I have read half of the chapter now, and I will definitely read half of the chapter in the next video. So look forward to it. Bye. Do subscribe and do like and do share. All right. Bye.